Welcome everyone. Good evening. Welcome to the May 26, 2020 meeting of the Township of Pequannock Council. Ms. Marsh.
In accordance with the requirements of New Jersey's Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting was included in the annual meeting notice, which was filed in the office of the Township Clerk, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, publishes a legal notice in the Suburban Trends newspaper, and distributed to all persons requesting notice in accordance with Township policy. Information on remote access to the meeting was sent via email to the Suburban Trends, Daily Record, and Record newspapers and posted on the Township website.
Excellent. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a prayer and a moment of thanks for individuals serving our nation. I pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands,
one
nation,
under
God,
indivisible,
liberty and justice
for all. Most gracious Providence, we ask that you bless this governing body with an abundance of wisdom and understanding, so that every deliberation will result in actions which will promote the common good and the general welfare for all the people of Pequannock Township. Amen.
Amen. All right. The clerk will please call the roll.
Mrs. Florence Lynch,
Here.
Mr. Cole,
Here.
Mr. Phelan,
Here.
Mrs. Russell, here, Mayor Hurd.
Here. Thank you. Mr. Brewer, will you please review the format of this meeting for the public?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, as a result of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, the township is conducting this meeting via the internet and Zoom. We invite public participation at the appropriate times on the agenda. The mayor will call for it. Any member of the public who would like to participate, please raise your hand. At the bottom of your screen, there's information there how to do that within the Zoom function. If you have an issue or there are other problems, I will be monitoring the chat function. But I do ask that questions be posed to the meeting, not through the chat function, so that they can be appropriately included in the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brewer. All right, presentations. There are no presentations scheduled for this evening. Reports from volunteers. At this time, if there are reports or comments from any of our volunteers serving our community, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized.
Mr. Mayor, no hands have been raised.
All right, thank you. Moving on. Next, we're going to go to public comment. This public comment period will be limited to a total of 30 minutes. An additional period for public comment is reserved later in the meeting. Individuals are requested to limit their question and comments to 3 minutes. If anybody wishes to address the council, please raise your hand, wait to be recognized, and provide your name and address for the record. Mr. Brewer.
Mr. Spizzeri has raised his hand.
All right, Mr. Frank.
I just unmuted. My name is Frank Spizzeri, 35 West Franklin Avenue, Pequannock, New Jersey.
Hey, Frank, how are you doing?
All right. I know I'm getting a little early, but you got two resolutions that I hope somebody's going to explain. Number 180 and 181 about the $6 million for the water department.
180 and 1.
I don't see 180 and 181.
Are you talking about 130?
Oh, wait a minute. Maybe it's a 130. Yeah, it's 130. Sorry, my glasses are blocked.
So
130, 130, and 131. If somebody's going to explain about that later, then I'll wait for that answer.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that in the next section.
Okay, that's good.
Anything else, Frank?
No, that's for now. That's it.
All right, we miss you behind the camera, buddy. So
Yeah,
hopefully soon enough.
That's right. I'm still watching you.
All right, thank you, Frank. Anyone else, please raise your hand.
Mr. Mayor, there are no hands raised.
All right, there being no additional public comments, we will continue with the agenda. All right, next on the agenda is a manager's report. Mr. Brewer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a number of items included in my report. I did my best to keep it as few pages as possible without making it 8-point font. I apologize for the extensive writing. So as we know, the coronavirus pandemic continues. The police department will be returning to regular operations on June 1st, as will the Department of Public Works. Both of those departments are going to be engaging in certain safety protocols and procedures to make sure that everybody's safe, yet going back to full strength and regular operations. There was a discussion at the last council meeting with the health officer where there were questions about closed versus recovered cases and what's being reported and how. I apologize if there was consensus. I didn't note it or recall it. So, one of the questions that remains outstanding is if the council would like to have the number of closed cases within the CDR-SS system reported to the council, we're happy to do it. Mr. Cantizano recommended that not be a publicly displayed thing because it merely represents those cases that are no longer open in the state tracking system. And he's concerned about some misinterpretation. But again, if the council wants the statistic, we're happy to provide it, should that be what the council would like to do. With respect to PV Park opening, that's a discussion item for later in the meeting. Kent Place Sewer Extension Project, again, that's also a discussion item for later in the meeting. The capital ordinances, we have the capital ordinances for both all three, general capital, water capital, and sewer capital scheduled. As discussed during the budget presentation, the general capital is being limited to essentially the have-tos, leaving north of $900,000 of appropriation in the 2020 budget that is not going to be exercised in this current capital ordinance. As we move through the year and as we learn more, we may need to do additional capital ordinances, and alternatively, depending upon what happens with the revenues, that gives us an option to cancel an appropriation to keep the budget in balance. So the total capital ordinance is $559,800. All those items are listed both in the support as well as the ordinance itself. The water utility ordinance is $55,000 and the sewer utility ordinance is $55,000. Please note that all three ordinances are for the appropriation of funds for capital acquisitions in cash. There is no borrowing being authorized by those ordinances. Lastly, there's a salary ordinance scheduled for the council's consideration. Changes are identified in bold type. There are some salary ranges that are being restricted based upon administrative code and other things. There's some concerns that people would be launched into higher salary grades without being in parity with the rest of the organization. There are some titles that are corrected based upon local custom. Some people's titles weren't exactly what were in the ordinance. And as was built in the 2020 budget, there are some raises that the ordinance would need to be increased to allow. Those are all the items in my report, except for the discussion items, which obviously I'll cover later in the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brewer. All right, there are no
I just have one question.
Sure.
Getting back to the number of recovered cases, I think that other towns put them out, and I think it would make people feel a little better if we let them know the number of recovered cases or closed cases, however he wants to call it. I don't know how everybody else feels. I feel that we need to give our township as much information so that they can make their own decisions.
I definitely agree with Kyle.
Sure, as long as we put an asterisk stating that the information is actually unknown and incorrect. That's my only issue with it, because of everybody that we asked to self-report, that nobody ever went to the hospital, nobody ever tracked. We don't know if they're closed. So there is a lot of gray area though, but as long as the residents understand that it's just a number, I'm fine with that.
Right. I know that the governor will state there's X amount out of the 2-week window. If we have currently 199 cases, 180 of those could be out of the 2-week window. And I just don't like when people hear those numbers, they get, they need to know that a lot of those people are out of the 2-week window and doing great. Unfortunately, some may still be sick, but I think the more information we can give them, people can make up their own decisions.
Sure.
I'm okay with that as well. To Ryan's point, we should just have a footnote or something, stating, I don't know, how do you want to word it, Ryan? The footnote?
I will ask Tom or Adam to
Yeah.
figure out what the verbiage is, but just,
So
understanding
people
that.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I
that's
think we
all.
should put the information out as well.
Yeah.
I know Tom doesn't agree with us, but
All right, so just to be clear, the direction of council, or the majority of council obviously is that we now are to be posting this statistic on the website, or we're going to be giving it to the council. I don't want to make sure I'm not unclear on this. Where are we going?
Very good. So you just want to put on the website with the other link
Yes.
for Morris County?
Yeah,
yeah,
I
could we?
think
Yeah.
something on the website would be fine. The number of closed cases we have tracked available right now are X amount. Or if so people have a better understanding.
And it
Dave,
may not be updated regularly because it's just a closed
Right.
case.
Right. No,
So you just
So as
put
of
the
a
date
certain-
as of,
So a list as of a certain date, this is what the data exists.
correct.
And that'll
Right.
include whatever caveats that the health officer believes are appropriate.
right.
right.
I just
Nah.
think the more information we could give our township residents, the better they'll feel and they can make their decisions going forward.
Sure.
Okay.
Councilman Cole, any question or issue with it? Mute. There we go.
As long as we put the asterisk, I'm fine.
Okay,
You know,
there you
whatever,
go.
whatever Tom states is best. Because I mean, even the county, Dr. Carlos Perez, I don't think he isn't really recommending that we make it public, but if we want to make it public, as long as it's some sort of asterisk, I'm good with it.
Right, and we'll do our best to update it once a week, every 2 weeks. It all depends on when we get the new data. So
Yeah,
that
as the
one is
data becomes
definitely the
available,
target.
yeah, as the data becomes available and can be updated, it will be updated.
Perfect. Okay, yeah, I'm fine with that. All right, moving on. Public hearings. There are no public hearings scheduled for this evening. So ordinances for introduction. Next on the agenda is the introduction of ordinances. Mrs. Marsh. Hold on, Mrs. Marsh, you're muted.
Trying to drown out the street noises.
There we go.
The first ordinance on the agenda for the council's consideration is ordinance number 2020-05, establishing minimum and maximum salaries and pay rates for designated officials and employees of the Township of Pequannock.
Okay, Mr. Brewer, any comments?
Once again, the ordinance seeks to clarify some titles to make them consistent. It restricts some salary ranges and expands others. Those that are changed are identified in bold.
Okay, are there any comments from council? All right, seeing none. So this is basically just housekeeping, correct?
Correct, but it's a legislative requirement in order to authorize certain salaries.
Okay. Is there a motion to introduce this ordinance on first reading?
I just
I'll
have
make a motion.
quick question. I'm sorry.
Yes.
On the list, do we have a director of Parks and Rec now?
We do not.
Oh, because I just noticed that was on the list.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of things on the list that we don't have.
Yeah, that one just stuck out to me. I just didn't know. Okay.
Right. It's
Yeah,
just a
and
pay
if I
schedule.
could clarify something, sometimes having the titles available provides for flexibility without
Sure.
additional legislative action. But just to be clear, there's an authorized salary for qualified purchasing agent. I'm the qualified purchasing agent. I do not receive a salary beyond that which I get for township manager. I don't get salaries all over the place.
Okay.
I made the motion.
All right, can I get a second?
I'll
I'll
second.
second.
I'm gonna have to go with Mr. Cole on that one. All in favor? Roll call?
Mrs. Florence Lynch,
Yes.
Mr. Cole,
Yes.
Mr. Phelan,
Yes.
Mrs. Russell,
I'll abstain because my son is an employee of the township.
Bob, should I abstain?
Only non-represented.
Oh, okay. Bob, you're muted.
Because it's the unrepresented or not.
Okay.
in this
So I'm a yes.
theory. Yep.
Mayor Hurd.
Yes, thank you. Next on the agenda is introduction of ordinance number 201-20-06. Ms. Marsh.
Sorry about that. Ordinance number 2020-06, providing for various capital improvements in and by the Township of Pequannock in the County of Morris, State of New Jersey, and appropriating the sum of that is the wrong number. $55,000.
559,800.
The correct number, I believe, is $55,000.
$559,800.
Oh,
Oh,
I'm sorry. It is.
yeah, you're reading the wrong ordinance, Ralph.
Yep. Let me start this all over again, okay?
There we go. We'll get a redo.
This is ordinance number 2020-06, providing for various capital improvements in and by the Township of Pequannock in the County of Morris, State of New Jersey, and appropriating the sum of $559,800 for financing thereof.
Excellent. Mr. Brewer, any comments?
As noted, this is a fully funded ordinance. No borrowing is being authorized, and it does not represent the full $1.5 million plan that is included in the 2020 budget, but is being limited to create flexibility should we have revenue shortfalls in 2020.
Okay, are there any comments from council? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to introduce this ordinance on first reading?
I'll make a motion.
to introduce
No, I have to
ordinance number 220-06.
I have to go Ms. Russell on that one. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All right, roll call.
Mrs. Florence Lynch,
Yes.
Mr. Hurd,
Yes.
Mr. Phelan,
Yes.
Mrs. Russell,
Yes.
Mayor Hurd.
You
Sorry,
forgot Mr. Cole.
I'm a yes.
Oops.
All righty, moving right along.
You only get to vote twice in Cook County.
All right, so Mr. Cole, you're a yes. Mayor Hurd is a yes. All right, next on the agenda is introduction of ordinance number 201-20-07. Ms. Marsh.
Ordinance number 2020-07, providing for the various capital improvements in and by the Township of Pequannock Sewer Authority in the County of Morris, State of New Jersey, and appropriating the sum of $55,000 for financing thereof.
Okay, Mr. Brewer, any comments?
Consistent with the 2020 budget plan, this is $55,000 of cash funded capital acquisition for the sewer, or for the water utility. Excuse me.
Okay, are there any comments from council?
No, sewer utility. Now I'm doing it. Sorry.
Oh, boy.
Must
So
be the
to
heat.
clarify, this is $55,000 for the sewer utility.
Correct.
All right.
Capital acquisition.
Are there any comments from council?
Nope.
All right, seeing none, is there a motion to introduce this ordinance on the first reading?
I'll make a motion to introduce ordinance 2020-07.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
I'll go Kyle on that one. Roll call.
We need a buzzer.
Yeah, we got to get a buzzer. Roll call, Ms. Marsh.
Florence Lynch,
Yes.
Mr. Cole,
Yes.
Mr. Phelan,
Yes.
Mrs. Russell,
Yes.
Mayor Hurd.
Yes. Okay, next on the agenda is introduction of ordinance number 2020-08. Ms. Marsh.
This is ordinance number 2020-08.
That was interesting.
This is ordinance number 2020-08, providing for various capital improvements in and by the Township of Pequannock Water Utility in the County of Morris, State of New Jersey, and appropriating the sum of $55,000 for financing thereof.
Okay, Mr. Brewer, any comments?
Also $55,000, but now we're on the water utility. Again, consistent with the 2020 budget and capital plan, the ordinance is prepared for the council's consideration. And there is no borrowing associated. This is cash fund.
Okay, just to clarify, 2020-07 was for the sewer utility, 2020-08 is for the water utility. Both are represented at $55,000.
Correct.
Okay, are there any comments from council?
No.
Seeing none, is there a motion to introduce this ordinance on first reading?
I'll
make a
try
motion.
this one. I'll do a introduction of ordinance 2020-08.
And I'll second it.
Go ahead, Rich. Yeah, there you go.
Roll call, Ms. Marsh.
Mrs. Florence Lynch,
Yes.
Mr. Cole,
Yes.
Mr. Phelan,
Yes.
Mrs. Russell,
Yes.
Mayor Hurd.
Yes. All right, next on the agenda is resolutions. Mrs. Marsh.
For the council's consideration this evening, beginning with resolution R 2020-122, authorizing the discretionary award of a contract for fertilizer and lawn care products to Fisher & Sons Incorporated in an amount to exceed $17,500, but be no more than $30,000. R 2020-123, authorizing tax office refunds, overpayments, or cancellations. 2020-124, confirming the designated membership in the Pequannock Township Fire Department. That's for, the last names are Terry and Smith, Dominic Terry and Benjamin Smith. R 2020-125, providing for the insertion of a special item of revenue in the 2020 budget. 48:4-87. That is Chapter 159 of Public Law 1948. R 2020-126, accepting a water line and utility easement over a portion of 12-14 Kent Place with Michael Samarero. R 2020-127, authorizing the settlement of a sanitary sewer assessment appeal and the execution of a consent order for final judgment. That's with the Pequannock Township Board of Ed for Block 1912, Lot 1 and Lot 2.01. R 2020-128, canceling unexpended general capital appropriation balances. 2020-129, canceling grant fund balances. R 2020-130, providing for the combination of certain issues of water utility bonds Series 2020 of the Township of Pequannock in the County of Morris, New Jersey, into a single issue of bonds, aggregations $6,700,000 in principal amount. R 2020-131, determining the form and other details of $6,700,000 in water utility bonds, Series 2020 of the Township of Pequannock in the County of Morris, New Jersey, and providing for their sale. And finally, R 2020-132, approving payment of the itemized claims set forth on the May 21st, 2020 bill list.
Okay. Mr. Brewer, since we had a question from the audience, could you just clarify R 2020-130 and 131?
Yes, Mayor. These are resolutions necessary for the township to proceed with a bond sale, which is the permanent financing of short-term debt. So this debt was previously authorized by ordinance. It was principally for the construction of the water tank on Mountain Avenue and the transmission line to bring that water to the water system. After a certain period of time, it's 9-ish years, I don't know exactly where it is, but after a certain period of time, you either have to retire the debt or permanently finance it. So it goes from being notes to being bonds. This is the legislative action necessary for the finance officer to proceed with the issuance of the bond sale to permanently finance that debt. It is not new debt. It's not new funding. It's funding that has already been authorized and has reached the end of its life in terms of being paid as notes.
And so now we're going to the bond market to borrow money over X amount of time frame.
Correct. Converting the short-term debt into long-term debt.
Is the interest better in the bond market than it is in the short term?
It's hard to say these days. It varies greatly. In my experience, it depends on the size of the issue. There's a lot of variables in play that I can't say definitively better.
All right, are there any comments on the resolutions from council? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to adopt these resolutions?
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2020-122 through 2020-132.
And I'll second it.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to give that to Rich. All right, roll call, please. Ms. Marsh?
All
There
right,
you go.
Mrs.
Okay.
Lynch,
Yes.
Mr. Cole,
Yes.
Mr. Phelan,
Yes.
Mrs. Russell,
Yes.
Mayor Hurd.
Yes. Okay, next on the agenda, items for discussion. Let's start with the PV Park opening. Mr. Brewer.
Well, real quickly, I just want to note Mr. Spizzeri has raised his hand. Mr. Mayor, it's up to you and the rest of the council if you want to entertain public comment at this point or defer and wait till the appropriate time in the agenda.
Well, I would like to get through the PV Park opening at Kent Space. So, Mr. Spizzeri, I always mess up your name. Sorry, Frank. Can you wait until the public comment?
He has lowered his hand.
Okay, thanks, Frank. I appreciate that. All right, let's talk about PV Park. I know that's a hot topic. We're all excited. We want to get this open. I know you were tasked with figuring it out because the governor has allowed us to have a little more flexibility with a bunch of asterisks. So what exactly does that mean?
Yeah, so for anybody who played baseball, This has been an interesting exercise in trying to keep your hands back on the curveball, because just when you think you know what you're dealing with, in a couple of days, things change. When we last discussed this, we were targeting July 4th because as of the 12th of May, we were not permitted to open. So we were trying to figure out when and how and to get things ready. On the 14th, Governor Murphy issued Executive Order 143 that provided for beaches, boardwalks, lakes, and lake shores to be open with caveat and restrictions. So obviously, in 2 days after our discussion, the game changed significantly. The staff mobilized. We didn't actually get the order to be able to read what it says, because it's also tough. You hear what's reported in the press and everybody assumes certain conclusions. And then when you read the text of the order, sometimes it's not 100% the same as what the interpretation is from how the press is reporting it. So we reviewed the order, together an action team, and currently the target to open PV Park is June 13th, provided the council wants to proceed with the opening. Now, I'm not saying that we may not be able to open sooner. The possibility exists that we could open sooner, but I don't want to promise something that can't be delivered. Assuming the council is interested in moving forward, I'm confident June 13th is a realistic target with, again, the potential to open sooner. Some caveats just to bring to the council's attention of things that we have to do. Within Order 143, there's a whole list of things. Examples being, we have to limit access to 50%. So, we have limited access. We will limit access to 74 spaces. Parking lot, that's how we're going to approach that. We have to make certain physical changes to allow for the gate attendant to be shielded from the public. So access and egress is going to be a little bit different. Access will be through the tunnel. Egress will be through the gate on the side. We have to demarc 6-foot spacing. We have to hang certain signage. We won't be allowed to use the diving boards. We won't be allowed to use the basketball court, the picnic pavilion, the volleyball court, all because of the orders that are in place. Just like we had on the 12th and the 14th, I'm optimistic or hopeful that things change and we're able to expand the use of the facility to include everything, and we'll be prepared to implement that. As I note in my report, one of the concerns I just want to make sure the council is aware of is, as we know, because of the operational analysis conducted in 2019, the park has been running at a deficit for several years. In an effort to correct that, rates were increased, tried to make some operational changes. We went for concession provider for the snack stand, things to try to limit our costs and collect the necessary revenues. One of the big revenue sources is camps. Spot 23 and the Boys and Girls Club. We're all still awaiting direction and guidance whether or not camps will happen, can happen, and much like PV Park in this situation, what restrictions will be placed on them when they do in fact happen. They do. So, moving forward, the recreation utility was able to absorb the cost of the deficit in prior years. And the fact that we're not having recreation activities and there's still overhead may not happen in 2020. So the potential exists that if the recreation utility runs a deficit, the standard way to deal with that would be to raise the funds necessary in 2021. Not sure if that's going to happen. Should that not be possible, any spending that can't be raised through the recreation utility would have to be raised through the current fund. Okay. So I just laid it all out for the council and the public. We are working, and the township staff has been doing a phenomenal job of getting things up and running and moving things and preparing things to be ordered once given the green light. But that's kind of the whole 10,000-foot view of where we are with the.
All right. So.
All right. Couple of things. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned, Adam, that the target date is June 13th. We might be able to do something earlier, but even more importantly, you talked about the things we can't do right now, but you did say that if all of a sudden those things opened up, we'd be ready to add those other services if we had to, whether it's, all of a sudden they can use the diving boards or the picnic areas. Those are things you can implement down the line as the executive orders change, correct?
Correct. Many of them in hours, some of them may require days, but.
All right. And, and then the other thing is, I don't know what the numbers are right now, being that, obviously, we're getting such a late start this year because of the COVID, but I really do think that, you know, we have a gem of a lake here. People that use it want to use it. Who knows? You know, I think we need to open it up, get as many, you know, we need to really promote it, of course, and make sure that we get those that haven't gotten their badges yet and memberships to do that. But, you know, next year, if we have to raise the fees to keep it open, I think people would pay. But that's just my 2 cents.
Mr. Cole?
Have the camps been notified, Spa 23 and Boys and Girls Club?
No. I didn't want to promote anything until we had a decision. I don't know what to notify them of yet.
Are they allowed to use it yet?
No.
We don't know allowed to operate.
Right.
So on June 13th, unless something changes, on June 16th or the Monday, Spa 23 needs to know, and the Boys and Girls Club, well, it won't be really then. It'll be once school gets out. But, I mean, if Spa 23 is selling memberships and all of a sudden we pull the rug out, I think there's going to be a major problem there.
There's nothing from the township's perspective that would prevent the camps from participating in PV Park. Right now, it's the executive orders. We haven't implemented, and I don't anticipate us ever implementing something to limit their ability to use it. If it's allowable under the executive orders, it's going to happen.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, you know, I agree. I think, you know, it's going to be a tough year. You know, I think, you know, Melissa said, you know, we need to get the people that joined up last year. And you're going to have people that just aren't going to join this year, that joined the last 2 or 3 years. They're just not going to join. But, you know, you may have new people that join that have never joined because, you know, you're not going anywhere this summer, so they will go to PV Park. Yeah, you know, I'm for it. I mean, you know, I hate to spend the money and then find out on June 21st, you know, everything that we did is null and void, and you know, we can go back to using regular sinks and faucets and everything else. But you know, it is what it is. That's what we got to do to spend the money to get it open. We got to spend the money.
Okay.
And if I could just comment on, you know, for example, the touchless sink, you know, it's something that's required by the governor's order, but it's also not a bad thing.
No,
Right.
It's an improvement.
It's
at the
not
end of the day.
completely for nothing.
no, it's just, I think you have, you know, they're not cheap.
Correct.
True.
Okay. Mrs. Russell?
I think the benefit outweighs any costs, and when I thought the same thing you did, Dave, when I first saw that. Like, oh, we got to replace all this stuff, but it's really stuff that probably needed to be done anyway. You know, when was the last time those handles were changed? I think we're going to have another, you know, if they do allow camps, and then there's still the social distancing with the camps, you know, who's that on? Is that on the camps? Is that going to be on PV Park? But that's something, I guess, for a future discussion.
Yeah. I was told today that the Boys and Girls Club probably will not be attending. Right now they have no idea if they can have summer camp, but if they can, they probably will not be attending.
Okay. Yeah, I guess they're going to have to make their decisions, and you know, it's really up to the governor. But we shall see. Adam, how many people have already signed up for PV Park?
I got this earlier today. I apologize. I plugged my computer in so that I don't lose the Zoom meeting. So if you could bear with me, and if anyone else maybe wants to jump in while I grab that number.
Mr. Phelan, do you have any questions? All right.
We have 90 registered memberships.
How many?
90.
90.
That's good.
That's 90 people.
Not bad considering.
And there are only, based on the spreadsheet I'm reviewing, there's only 4 that have withdrawn. So I think of the 90, they're hanging in there with the hope that the season's going to happen.
Are we still allowing walk-ins, day passes, or do you think it might be beneficial to make sure that everybody who joins does a yearly pass so that there's no exchanging of money and we don't have to worry about the gate person handling money and one less thing we have to worry about?
The plan as of today was to continue with what we ended with last year, which was residents could have a day pass, non-residents would have to join for membership. And then obviously residents could have memberships. If the council wants to take that in a different direction, we certainly can.
I don't think we want to pull that back now.
I think we should leave it the way it is,
Yeah, leave it.
especially this year.
Right, okay.
Yeah, the more people we get, the better, whether it's 20
I was
days.
just thinking of safety of the gate guard. But that's
And there's
fine.
a safe way to do it. We can work the operation so that it
Gotcha. I mean, they do it at ShopRite, so I guess it's fine.
All right, so the only comment I have is two core comments. There was a question a couple of weeks ago about, do we save money with things like this? And this is one of those classic cases that because of the situation with COVID and because of restrictions that are being put on us from the government, it's going to cost us money. It's going to cost us about $6,000, and we're going to be running at a deficit because we're not going to have, at this time, Boys and Girls Club or Spa 23. So that's definitely something we're going to have to work on our budget next year and figure out how do we make all this work. So again, this is one of those classic cases where unfortunately it's going to cost us. And then the other thing that I definitely want the residents to understand is PV Park. You know, there's a reason why we go to PV Park. We go to PV Park for socialization. That's, a lot of us have, you know, pools in the backyard, but we go down with our kids. We want to see everybody. The kids want to play with their friends and everything, and it's an incredible experience. I want the residents to understand that it's a little bit of a different year, you know, when we're talking about, as of right now, based on what the governor has allowed us and not allowed us to do. There's not going to be any charcoal, you know, cooking on the grills. There's not going to be any using of the tables. There's not going to be any food service. There's not going to be any volleyball. There's not going to be any basketball. You can't play on the play sets. Mr. Brewer?
And just, well, with respect to food service, I have been in conversation with the concessionaire who put in a proposal to provide the snack stand. He remains cautiously interested.
Okay.
So there may, I can't commit to it now because we haven't ironed out the details, but there may be a way for him to provide, you know, he's got a commercial kitchen. He could prepare sandwiches, ice cream, drinks. You know, we have to review the economics of all that, but if we get the green light now, we have the defined hours and we can proceed.
And what about lockers?
I'm sorry?
What about lockers? Can we use
No
lockers?
lockers. Not right now.
And then,
I have one more question too, if you don't mind me interrupting.
yeah,
Is there a reason why we can't put up the big umbrellas?
They're going up.
Well, it says, no umbrellas will be put up, or permanent ones on the beach, in parentheses.
The big umbrellas are being put up. That was revised this morning.
Okay, all right, perfect.
We
So
need shade.
we're not putting the small ones up.
You're muted, Kyle.
Right, I think they meant the small umbrellas. The lifeguards used to put them out for people that we had there, so I guess we're not gonna do that.
Not right now. In 3 days, who knows?
right, and that's a good point. As of right now, families have to be socially distanced. So we're going to have like 6-foot squares on the sand, and there's going to be no horseplay in the water. Now, what we have learned going through all this is things literally change on a dime. Like this weekend, it went from gatherings of 10 to gatherings of 25. So, I mean, keep your fingers crossed. Hopefully by June 13th, we don't have to worry about any of this, and we'll have some nice brand new faucets. So,
We haven't,
fingers crossed. Who knows where it'll go? But with that said, just take a straw poll. Does anybody have an issue opening PV Park?
No,
You're muted, Kyle.
we're gonna have 6-foot squares. Did you just say that, Ryan?
Yeah, you
On the
have to be
park?
socially distanced.
There will be, we're going to start with cones. We're going to try to figure out the best.
Okay, I was gonna say, we're not gonna put people in a grid, are we? That's kind of ridiculous. I think people can figure out what 6 feet is.
We'll get noodles. We'll have to, everybody gets an orange noodle as they walk into PV Park.
Yeah, how about just say, people keep your distance? Good.
The
I
order
think a lot
requires
of
us,
them-
the order requires it be denoted, so we'll figure out a way to comply with the order.
They didn't do that at the beach. I'm surprised they make you do it here.
Don't get me started. Again, I want to make sure everybody understands this has nothing to do with the township of Pequannock. We want to open PV Park. This is all outside influence by the governor and by executive orders. So our hands are tied on this. With that said, Mr. Phelan, do you have anything to add? Good to go? Looks like everybody's good to go. So there you go, Adam. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Great.
Goal is
Thank you.
June 13th, and hopefully everything I said will not come to fruition and we can just go and enjoy the beach. All right, next, Kent Place Sewer Extension. Mr. Brewer.
Thank you. So we have a little bit of an unusual situation. The Kent Place apartments have failing septic systems, which is evidenced by effluent flowing into the parking lot. And the Kent Place apartments were included for the purposes of the sewer assessment project in the village area project. So the Kent Place apartments and properties, one is residential, the balance are commercial, are currently being assessed and paying their assessments through the village area sewer project. They've also paid their connection fees as the council requested. Letters were sent to those individuals who had not yet connected, who were a component of the village area sewer project, to let them know that the fee would be changing because we didn't want to be in a situation where we compelled people to connect and then raise their fees. So they all came in and paid their fees in 2019 prior to them being increased. The decision was made during the construction phase of the village project, presumably that it would make more sense from an engineering perspective to physically connect those properties during the Route 23 project. So we have a situation where they're not currently being served by sanitary sewer, but they are being assessed for the benefit provided by the construction of the village area project. Under normal circumstances, if someone's failing, we would ask them to cover the costs of construction to connect to our sewers. But as we discussed in providing them with sewers, we have an obligation to now create an offshoot of the Route 23 project, and we've coined it the Kent Place Sewer Extension. Within the memorandum that I provided to the Township Council, I note that the total assessments being paid by the properties that are included amount to over $270,000. The connection fees are just shy of $50,000. And although I can't give details about the engineer's estimate as to cost, it's important to note to the council and the public that the cost to construct this extension is less than or within the amount that the group is being assessed. So, you know, the rents, the annual rents are anticipated to be approximately $37,000 based upon prior year's water usage. So that will be the reoccurring revenue as a result of getting these customers online. So economically, I believe it makes sense for this sewer utility. But regardless of the positive economic situation, you know, we do have, in essence, a public health emergency. We could compel them to pump their septic tanks out until such point that we can connect them, and they will have to do that until such point that we can connect them. But I think the right thing to do is to proceed post-haste to get this constructed as soon as possible.
Okay, so what you're saying is we have the ability to connect them now. They're going to be connected to the village sewer project and not wait for the 23 sewer project.
Well, we have the ability to do a small version, a portion of what was going to be included in the Route 23 project to run the sewer main up so that the Kent Place apartments and the other 4 properties can all connect.
Okay. Council, any questions?
So instead of connecting from the back, they're going to be connecting from the turnpike now? Is that how I'm reading that?
The Kent Place apartments actually have property that fronts Newark Pompton Turnpike.
But if we waited until the 23 project, we probably would have come in from the back part of the...
Right, we would have come in from 23 down or west.
Yeah, good, get it done.
So unless there's any objection from council, we'll proceed with the preparation of the bid specifications, get this out to bid. And again, on the positive side, we'll be collecting revenue that is otherwise still contingent upon the acquisition of certain easements. Council authorized the execution of one of them tonight. Bob, the staff, and I are continuing to work hard to try to get those from people and prepare ourselves to be in the best position possible moving forward, should other action be required.
Councilwoman Lynch, any questions?
No, I was just curious to know
whatever happened with, the Legion is right there. Are they hooked up?
They are.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure they were.
Yes.
Okay.
Councilman Phelan, any questions? Councilwoman Russell, any questions?
Nope, I'm good.
All right, we're all good. There you go. Thank you,
Great.
sir.
Thank you all very much.
All right, moving on. There are no reports or notices. Next on the agenda is council reports and announcements. So Councilwoman Florence Lynch, let's start with you.
Okay. I just wanted to thank everyone who helped out with last week's food distribution event. We ended up distributing food to approximately 183 families. Plus, we were able to give a lot of the extra canned goods to the Pequannock Food Pantry. There was a small load that someone came by to pick up for Newbridge. We were also able to help out the Newark Food Pantry who came by, and they were able to take some of the perishables as well because they're refrigerated down there. And I just wanted to thank Pequannock Valley Rotary and Chamber of Commerce for the volunteers they sent to help out with the event. And there was a couple of just people in town that volunteered as well. There were volunteers that delivered to certain households that were homebound and they couldn't drive to the site, as well as a nice big delivery that went to the seniors at Hurl Village. And I wanted to thank our township manager, Adam Brewer, for helping with the resources and having our police and DPW help out and set up and organize the logistics of that whole event. And I think it was a good event overall. I mean, it's the first time we did it. You always learn something. So next time, you know, we'll take the things we learned this time and implement them. But thanks to Table of Hope and Reverend Sidney Williams, who's the senior pastor at Bethel Church in Morristown, for coming to Pequannock, as well as the assistance from Habitat for Humanity. I just wanted to thank freeholder Kathy DiFilippo for informing us, about having this great event, and hopefully we'll have similar ones in the future. What else? And then I was glad that we were able to have our Memorial Day celebration yesterday, yesterday. It's very important to honor those, who fought for our freedom. And I'm glad we were able to honor them and their families. And thanks to the 2 Legion posts for organizing and for Parks and Rec, who were able to live stream it. And then the only other thing I have is none of my committees, Economic Development normally would meet tomorrow night, but they did cancel their meeting because they don't have a quorum for tomorrow night. I guess the chair wasn't available, so it is canceled for tomorrow. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Next, Councilman Cole.
I also just want to, repeat what Melissa said about the food event. It was, very well run. Number of families, local families from our town and surrounding towns came and benefited from it. So I thought it was a great event. Like Melissa said, we learned from the first one, and the next one will be smoother. I also wanted to thank both Legions for the ceremony that we did on Memorial Day yesterday. It was nice that we still did something to honor those that gave so much, gave it all for our freedom. So kudos to both Legions and everyone that attended that. Planning Board will be meeting on June 1st. It'll be our first meeting in quite a while. It's a Zoom meeting, so I'm looking forward to that. And that's it. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Councilman Phelan.
I apologize for not being able to attend these, but I have a health issue that I need to be extremely careful about being around anybody. So I apologize. Company 2 did have a Zoom meeting, which I attended last week. It went well, very well. I'm hoping Company 1 has a Zoom meeting next week, so we'll see what happens. But other than that, all is quiet.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Deputy Mayor. Russell?
Yes, I agree with what everybody said. The food drive was great. I thought it went very smoothly, actually. People were very happy. They were very thankful. A lot of people came out and helped, so that was good. As was the Memorial Day service. You know, it is important to thank those that gave everything, that gave their lives for our freedom. So I just want to thank everybody who was involved in that, the Boy Scouts that showed up, you know, both Murphys, they're just always there willing to help. Library, we had a Zoom meeting and they haven't been allowed to open yet, but they already have everything in place for how they're going to handle the opening. So they're, you know, getting ready and raring to go. So as soon as the governor gives the call, the library will be ready to open. That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I have a few things to report. Melissa, you did a great job with the food. It really was you that pulled everything together, and you ended up feeding 183 families. So I think that's phenomenal. So thank you very much. I really do appreciate that. I'm going to echo what everybody said about Memorial Day. I know it was a little different because we weren't able to have the parade, but I am very happy that everybody pulled together and we got something out there and we live streamed. So I want to thank Post 242 and Post 450, as well as Troop 144, which are the Boy Scouts in town. I'll echo you, Mrs. Russell, with the Murphys. They're awesome. They put so much time into the Boy Scouts. It's absolutely amazing. And again, it's all about remembering. It's remembering our grandparents, our parents, our kids, our neighbors, everybody who gave it all for us to be free. And as I say, freedom is not free. So let's see. I had an interesting call with Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill today, and you know, talking to a bunch of people over the weekend, I'm still finding out that there are people out there that are applying for the unemployment and then getting it and then not getting it, not getting the $600. I'm also finding people that are getting their stimulus, but they're not getting it for their kids. I also talked to 4 businesses that basically said, you know, we're done. They have thousands of dollars of debt and they're never going to be able to get ahead of that. So I voiced the concerns with our Congresswoman as well as our governor that it's time to reopen. I believe in the American people. I believe in the people of Pequannock. You know, we can start doing this. There's some amazing people that have great ideas to follow the rules, yet still, you know, get back to work. So I think that's very important. Another thing that came up, and Mr. Portis jumped right on this, which is great, which is our superintendent, but the in-person graduations are available July 6th. We worked very hard in the background for that one. So I'm proud that we were able to get that through. A couple other things, Medicare, and I will be posting this up on the Facebook page, but Medicare.gov, mental health support is available. I know this is trying times. It's getting to everybody. It's getting to me. I like being around people. So through Medicare, you can be able to get these health services that can deal with depression and all sorts of things. So I definitely encourage anybody to take care of that, especially our aging loved ones. We also have something on vaping. What do we really know about that? Join us for a free virtual presentation, and it's going to be presented by Philip Devadan, MD, Director of Pediatric ED Chilton Medical Center, and that's going to be Tuesday, June 9th, 7 to 8 p.m. I will post this as well. I don't know if you can see it. And like anything other than oxygen going into your lungs is probably not a good thing. Again, Atlantic Health System is also going to be doing another community conversation about scheduling surgeries and procedures, since now you're allowed to start doing elective surgeries. I will post this too, so you'll be able to have a link on that one. At Randolph, we got an interesting email from Randolph about resolution number 143-20, which basically says the town would like to open up. It's very important that we can social distance, we can follow the rules, yet we can still allow our township to open up and have commerce come in. I thought it was a very interesting read. I liked it a lot. And, I got my letter from President Trump and our stimulus, which was very interesting. I just wish it was on nicer paper. But other than that, one last cool thing. Anybody that's into space, tomorrow, 4:30, NASA, Cape Canaveral, SpaceX is going to be launching. There's a 60% chance as of right now that they will be launching. So that'd be really cool. It goes back to the days of you know, when we grew up watching the space program. That's all I have. So moving on, public comment. Next on the agenda is public comment. If anybody wishes to address the council, please wait to be recognized. Come to the microphone, provide your name and address for the record.
Mr. Spizzeri has raised his hand.
Excellent. Hello,
Okay.
Frank.
Spizzeri, 35 West Franklin Avenue, Pequannock, New Jersey. Now that you did the resolution for the bonds, do you have any idea when they will be put on the market?
It will be in June. I believe it's specified in the resolution.
So I don't have the whole resolution, so. And are they going to be through some agency, or you're just going to go through the regular bond market?
There's a traditional bond market that the township goes through. And I can circle back, Mr. Spizzeri, and get you that exact date. I don't want to flip through a million papers and have everybody wait, and I'll report back.
You can send to me in an email if you want to. That's fine.
Sure, and I'll report back at the next council meeting because the first meeting in June will be before the sale.
All right, that's great.
Frank, are you asking if you can hold the bond for the township?
Well, I want to buy some.
Oh, there you
I want to
go.
own you guys.
There you go. A resident who puts his money where his mouth is.
That's
Thank you,
right.
Frank. Anything else?
Yeah, just an added thing. I got my credit card today from for the what? For the stimulus, yeah.
Oh, you got a card. It's interesting.
Yeah, I
We
got
were
my-
hearing about that.
Yeah, we were surprised to get it too. We were supposed to get a check, but we got a credit card instead. But it's money, so so I'll spend that on the bonds.
Oh, there you go. Double duty.
All right, that's all I got. I just wanted to know about the bonds.
All
Thank you.
right. Thank you, Frank. I appreciate it. Adam, anybody else?
No, Mr. Mayor, there's no one else with their hand raised.
Okay, thank you. Moving on. There are no minutes to approve. There's no closed session. All right. So there being no further business, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Go
I
ahead.
gotta go with Mr. Cole on that one. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, meeting adjourned at 7:57 PM. Thank you, everybody, for attending. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys.
Nice seeing you all.
Yes.
Thank you.